in terms of an implementation, if you say, actually this is good, we'd like to do this, this is actually what happens. These are typical timelines for a property which say up to about 200 rooms and let's say up to 5 F&B outlets, because it is a little bit how long is a piece of string when it comes to how long it will take to roll out. The first phase is what we call system setup, and that typically takes 2 weeks, and that's where we come in and we build a product list and configure the system. So we arrive with a team of people and we sit down and we say, right, let's see the chef. Chef, grab your product list. Let's have a look at what you buy. The chef will say, what's the first thing on the list, chef? He says, chicken breast. We say, great, what kind of chicken breast? Okay, what's the average weight of the chicken breast? Haven't got a clue. Right, well, is the skin on, is the skin off, all that sort of stuff. We go through all that on everything that we buy. And you would be amazed, or maybe you wouldn't, how often they don't know the answer to these questions. And sometimes, do you know who knows the answer to the question? The supplier. So that's the first phase. So we come in for a week, we try to build a product list for everything you buy. There's going to be stuff you don't know the answer to, so we allow a week thereafter to continue to gather that information. If at the end of 2 weeks we don't have all that information, we do not move on to the next phase. We keep working until we get that stuff. And how long this takes depends on you. People say to me, how long does it take to roll out Marketboomer? And I always answer, it depends on how much you want to do it. If you don't want to do it, if you're kind of half-hearted about it, it'll take us 3 years. If you want to do it, we'll rock it out in a month. Yeah? Once you've got all your product list built, so we now know what you buy, and we know who you buy it from, and we've got all your staff names and your supplier names, we've got all that data we need to set it up. We actually then arrive in and we actually go live. Again, 1 week on, 1 week off. So we arrive in on a Sunday morning or a Saturday night or wherever is the first day of the week for you. We've got the system fully set up. We'll have actually copied some of your orders that you sent over the phone, and we'll have placed them on the system before we arrived. So that at 9 AM in the morning, I've got a couple of guys who go down to the receiving bay and they're going to receive the goods in Marketboomer. And we've got a couple of guys who are going to go and do the purchaser training. Somebody else is going to go up to finance and help them do the interface training. And we will spend 2-3 days actively working with you in all those operational areas. Then most of my guys will go, and we leave one person on site who'll just keep going around holding hands for the balance of the week. And then we'll have somebody off-site for the next week watching to make sure you're still going okay, ringing up if there's stuff not happening and so on and so forth, ready to go back in. That's go live. We then run for another period of, say, 2 to 4 weeks where we do data collection. Within 6 weeks, we're at a point where what you're ordering on the system is what's arriving on the loading bay. Everybody agrees it's what you buy. And at that point, then you're in a position to actually go fully fledged live. Then what starts to happen is we start to get this kind of data. This is live data for a client who sort of has just come out the end of that data collection phase. What we do in the data collection phase and the initial setup is we don't seek to change anything about what you buy, who you buy it from, what price you pay. Nobody wants to get too smart at this stage. All you want to do is get people doing what they used to do, but in the system. Do you understand? You're going to have all this new control and capability and information, but you have to resist it, and you have to say, actually, you keep doing exactly what you used to do. The only difference is don't pick up the phone, you do it in the system. Because what that gives us is the opportunity to collect all this information. So now you start to find out celery by the kilo, he pays 65, 34, 38, 41, 62, 41, 29, 30. And you start to get that kind of clarity across every single thing that you're buying in common. And then you start to see the price variances that are available, and then you start to use that information to say, right, let's sit down with the bloke who sells celery and have a chat. Because he's charging one of us 65, he's charging another one 41, another one 29. Does that make sense? Yeah, we did this with a group of hotels not so long ago in the same city, and it wasn't this screen, but it was a slightly different one. We were actually there in the room with the FCs, and I said to them, is it possible that one of you could be paying 65 a kilo for this product and somebody else could be paying 29? Absolutely impossible. I says, okay, so who's saying it's possible? The guy who's paying 65 is the guy who's saying it's possible. Fortunately for us, the hotel we were running the session in was the one paying 29. And I says, who's paying the 29? The guy puts up his hand. I says, what, is it celery or whatever the product was? Absolutely. Is it rubbish? No, it's very, very good. I can go down and get you some if you want. Yeah? So what we do with this is we recommend you roll the system out, you collect the data, and then when you've got this kind of information, we say to people, we'd like to invite you to a meeting, maybe all the executive chefs, we'd like you to come to a meeting, and we'd like you to bring a basket with you, and in that basket, would you mind bringing some celery and some cabbage and some tomatoes and some... Don't say why, we're just going to have a discussion about stuff we're buying, we'd like you to bring it along. So they all arrive in with their basket, and you say, right, thanks for coming. Lemongrass. You don't say who's buying and at what price. You say lemongrass. These are the price variances we're all paying as a group. Let's have a look at the lemongrass we're buying. Because at that point you've got to find out his is actually premium quality and his is secondary quality, or actually they're both the same and he's getting ripped off. And that's fine. If they're different, if his is premium and yours is secondary, then we go back to the system and we say, well, okay, let's not define yours as a premium quality product. Let's define it as a secondary quality product. Let's define it as premium so that we start comparing like with like, and that's a settling in period. Yeah? But that's how we address it. So where we really get involved and where the benefit system really starts to kick in is when you can get to this kind of information, because then you can really start to control things. And then at any stage, once you've got this and you've got the system in place, you can start to turn things on and off. You'll start to flick switches because you're now in control. You've now changed the mechanism and the process for how you do business. Does that make sense? This is an example of an opportunity cost report, or what we call supplier pricing analysis report. This is quite an important distinction for you guys to be aware of. There's another kind of bit of analysis we produce. This is a report a hotel has produced individually for their operation. And the first thing the report does is it sorts everything that they bought in order of spend value. So this is the product they spent the most money on right up here at the top. The next thing that the report does is it shows them how competitively they're buying the product. It shows how many suppliers are offering prices against that product and what the price ranges are. So we can see here, product number 1 we buy the most of. We've got a range of suppliers offering prices, and there's 5 suppliers offering prices, 36% range, fairly competitive. But what we'll find is that we actually paid $8.10 in the system, but on the opportunity cost to us is $6.90. What we're saying there is the chef has said, I will only buy it from this guy, and he's paying $8.10, because we're not there to tell the chef who to buy from. He's buying at that price. But now we're here to say, well, actually, you paid 147 grand, you could have paid 125. So the cost of the decision to buy that product from that supplier is 25,000 a month. So what we start to do is bring to a number the cost of the decisions you're making product by product. And that becomes very powerful. Because if you think about the debate today, you sit down with the chef and you say, chef, you know, those strawberries, they're very expensive. What do you know? I'm the chef, it's quality, the guy's quality is rubbish, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, it's an impossible discussion to have. So what you do is you sit down with the chef and say, I'm not arguing with you, chef. I know they're very good strawberries, but what you need to understand is the decision to buy those strawberries from him has cost us 25,000 this month, and these strawberries at $6.90, they're not rubbish because the hotel right next door, he buys them every week at that price, and they're very good strawberries. So don't argue with me. Go next door and have a chat with the chef, and you tell him the strawberries are rubbish.